Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Man, you know, I just wake up in the morning and piss excellence. Hey, quit.
Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's the Dale Man.
My dog, man.
My dog, man.
My miffed and peeved is the fact that my wife wanted to get a puppy so bad. And she hates puppies. Like it's awful. Like just been annoyed for like, I don't know, 3 weeks straight.
That is pretty awful.
I'm like, what the hell did you think was going to be this thing? Like,
Puppies are cute, but they are.
It's never easy, man.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, are you gonna turn on your video?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Why?
Okay. You want to see that? You want to sit there? Do you want to see that?
Huh?
That's what you want to see. Sorry, man. No. I'm laying in bed.
Okay. You guys ready?
Yep.
All right, here we go.
I'm Deontay Burden, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Hamidou Diallo.
Hey, I'm Danilo Gallinari.
I'm Chris Paul, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
What's Dort?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what that was.
In English, bro.
I'm Darius Baisley, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
I'm Steven Adams.
I'm Andre Robertson, and I'm down to dunk. On you.
Good morning and welcome to episode number of Down to Dunk. I'm Luke. Oh, this morning by Andrew.
Slam through.
Taylor.
Dunk you, I won't do what you tell me. Dunk you, I won't do what you tell me. Dunk you, I won't do what you tell me. Snap through.
And Jay.
It's Jay.
So, guys,
What's up?
basketball is coming back.
It's back.
I mean, it's not back yet, but it's coming back.
Back.
It is. This would be a good time for the old Alien Ant Farm.
Wow.
It is. It's back. July 31st is the proposed, I guess it's finalized. Well,
Yeah.
I guess it has to be finalized by the Players Association, correct?
Yeah. So today, every single team has a union rep, and the union rep will tally the votes for each team and send them in. You guys know who the union rep for the Thunder is?
Man, I would have assumed Chris Paul, but he is the players rep.
Right.
So
It's not Chris Paul. I want
let's
you guys.
say, hold on.
Yes.
Nick Collison.
Who would be the most surprising? Steven Adams.
No.
Lou Dort.
No. The union rep for the Thunder. Luke, you got a guess? L-Man? L-Train?
I would say Steven Adams.
Nope. Already said nope to that. It is Terrence Ferguson
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
is the union rep for the Thunder, which is just really pretty funny that's the guy that is
This is
in charge of
odd.
this. It feels
I
weird.
can just picture him, somebody sending him the email and him just hesitating for too long to vote.
Just doesn't even reply. Nope, I'm gonna pass this on to somebody else.
So that's a lot of stress. I'm going to need to pass this.
They're like, hey, Terrence, we're really going to need a reply here in the next 5 minutes. He's like,
I
oh,
just
ooh, ooh.
do
And
it.
travel. And
oh,
you
no,
see-
I forwarded it.
I followed
no,
I got a friend that is plays in the Skins League here in Oklahoma City.
oh,
Really?
yeah?
Yeah.
Who is?
Drew Whitmire? I've told you about this guy. He's
That's a real legit league.
yeah, he's really good. His team beat Trey Young's team. So
Oh wow.
yeah, they're really good. He plays with like 3 or 4 old OU guys, and everybody he played with played in college. But anyway, so he played in that league, and so he, I always see posts about it, and so I was like, "What is this thing?"
Yeah.
Because apparently, I just hadn't heard about it. I guess maybe last year. I think I remember it, but it's relatively new. And also a super spreading event, like without question. I'm like, what are
Yeah.
you all doing? Like, at least wear a mask inside. Like,
No.
anyway, but it was one of those things where Terrence Ferguson went. He didn't play, but he went and showed up in person. And it was like, I had literally this morning, I'm looking through all the Instagram pictures from this thing. So I'm trying to figure out more details about it. And I get to this one picture with Terrence Ferguson. I'm like, I sometimes forget that he's like a person,
Yeah.
like a real person outside of this, like, because in on the Thunder, he feels like this incredibly like shattered guy. I'm like, he's actually just kind of a 20-year-old, 21-year-old dude that has a life and exists, and maybe hopefully can apparently vote to move the NBA forward.
Yeah. Oh, I thought the same thing. Whenever I saw him on Instagram just walking his dog, I'm like, oh, that's just a guy.
He's just a guy. I forgot about that. Most
He
of these guys
exists,
are
guys.
just guys.
And they exist.
And they exist. So back to the news that we got sidetracked by T. Ferg and his
Rightfully so. Rightfully
role
so.
with, his role with the Thunder. But the Thunder and the rest of the NBA, or 22 teams from the NBA,
22 teams.
will be resuming play on July 31st, which is really exciting. So all players located internationally are to return to their local markets on June 15th, and then all players report June 21st. Testing begins on June 22nd, and then training camp will be from June 30th through July 7th.
And then they all travel to Orlando.
And travel to Orlando, and then July 31st is the day that the NBA is back.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's so many details. Zach Lowe and Kevin Pelton had a podcast yesterday that I'll listen to about it. There's a lot of details about what this season is going to look like. The play-in tournament it's kind of odd, but they really, I think they made a really good effort to try and make it to where the Grizzlies had the highest odds of maintaining the 8th seed.
Yeah.
The only way there is a play-in tournament is if somebody's within what they say 4 games.
Yeah. So if the 9th seed is within 4 games of the 8th seed, then they get to play.
And then in the play-in game is 2 games or 1 game. So if the 8th seed wins the first game, it's over.
Yep.
If the 9th seed wins the first game, they have to play another game.
Yep.
So Memphis would get 2 chances to maintain the 8th seed. Let alone the fact that you're looking at the gap that these teams have to close. And then on top of that, the schedule is going to be the wild thing, because you got to think they removed 8 teams that a majority of teams have filled up some of their wins on.
Mm-hmm.
You still have Washington, you still have Phoenix. Those 2 teams, I mean, don't belong, truthfully. And it's kind of shocking that the NBA was like, yeah, just make it 22.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming, who knows what's going on in conversations and negotiations between those teams and their ownership.
That's a money grab.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
all right, we can throw 2 more teams in there and get
play 8 games between the 22 teams, then you're recouping a lot more money, which is a part of it.
And I have a question too. Does each team have their own local broadcast contract?
They do.
Okay. So then the 8 teams that aren't there, do they maybe they don't necessarily have to finish out as many games as the other teams?
I don't really know the answer to that question.
Because I'm just thinking, like, why would some teams I'm assuming some teams were like, you know what, we don't have to go to this. It's okay.
Yeah.
But I guess I don't know what the fight, because why wouldn't every single team fight if every team had to get 70 games for their local broadcast money to kick in,
Like the only team that you
a
hear
lot of money.
Yeah, the only team you hear of that said they didn't want to go is Charlotte. Everybody else, Chicago wanted to go. Cleveland, who by the way has the worst record in the Eastern Conference at 19-46. They put out a statement saying that they were going to use this as motivation in the future.
Heck yeah.
Like
you gotta.
You're going to use a global pandemic and what they had to do to get the playoffs going as motivation going forward. Good job, Dan Gilbert. Just stay you, man.
Read the room, buddy.
I mean, that is just unbelievable.
That
Yeah,
has
so-
100% to do with money. Then
Oh,
why
yeah.
would he wouldn't put out a statement like that if he wasn't just pissed and losing a bunch of money?
I mean, it's just Dan Gilbert just continuing to use Comic Sans on everything.
So one of the things that Kevin Pelton talked about, and Kevin Pelton, sometimes he just doesn't speak English, and I'm like, I don't know what you just said and the words that you just put together in 2 sentences. And so, but looking at the way that they're tentatively putting together the schedule, is that they're going forward with the next 8 games that you had on your schedule against teams that are going to be in Orlando.
Yep.
Does that make sense, Taylor? You looked at me like I confused you as much as Kevin Pelton confused me. But there's like some like nuance to it, because like some teams, there's, like the schedules don't work out that way, or, one team will have a far harder schedule, but it kind of, that's another one of those things for Memphis that really evens the playing field, because the Grizzlies were going down, like they have a murderer's row end of their year, but at the same time, the Pelicans had a really light schedule to finish the season. So now it evens the playing field even more. And so, but just looking at this for the Thunder, I'm just going to cruise through in 8 games. So they would I'm assuming they would replay the Jazz, as the first game of the season would be the Thunder versus the Jazz again. Then they'd play the Wizards.
Oh yeah.
The Grizzlies.
By the way, Jay, I feel like you can't just skate over that. I mean, that
right.
being the first matchup, and it was the last, attempt at a game that we saw, that anybody saw, right?
Yeah.
And that's the first game. And you get to see the Jazz on the court for the first time with Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. What is that going to look like? Everybody's going to be talking about their body language and everything. And then you get the Thunder coming in. I mean, it is going to be a wild first day.
So here's my question. Are they going to do it to where some of these, I feel like we're going to be so starved for content nationwide, worldwide, really, that I wonder if they're going to only regionalize some of these games, or what it's like. Wouldn't you offer, I mean, maybe you just do some sort of like condensed league pass and you play everything available for I don't know. I'm just trying, they're going to try to figure out how to recoup money in as many possible ways as they can. And I just wonder for me, what I'm trying to say is like, they should all be national. Like you should have, maybe you just put the Fox broadcast out there and you have FS1 just runs NBA games or something, like some way for them to move it to where it's all national.
I mean, there is going to be some national TV, whatever, is going to step up and say, hey, I'd like to have that on my station right now.
They have zero content. No one has enough content.
Yeah, but the hard part is, what does that cut your? Because one of the points of this is fulfilling regional TV market deals, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, if you would have to figure out a way to do it to where those entities can still maintain that part of it, because you can't. One of the rules is always like, and for the Thunder, I don't think this would matter anymore, but you can only have so many games that are specifically licensed to like TNT or ESPN, because there'll be those nights where they both play. You can watch it on both channels, but then there's nights where you can only watch it on TNT. And there are only so many games that you can do that way within their contract. I don't know the specifics of it, but I just wonder, like, would there be a way for, since it is owned by Fox, which is the only thing that's still, I think Fox Sports, the local stations are the only ones that aren't owned by Disney anymore. But I'm just trying to think of like, how would you make it more nationalized to where it's like, dude, it's going to be pretty much playoff caliber basketball for 8 games. And then, play-in tournament, which is going to be unique and really fun. And then you're going to have a great playoff, which once you get to the playoffs, everything becomes public, but I just wonder how they're going to do it for those 8 games. Cause I feel like, I would watch so much basketball.
I think they'll probably just keep it as is and just be on regional networks and then League Pass. And they'll probably just promote League Pass like crazy.
Yeah, and they'll do some special, like for $100, you can have all teams for the next 8 games. You know,
They
whatever.
they might do it free. Like everyone is doing all their stuff for free. Just
Yeah,
it makes sense to do it for 8 games.
it'd be a tight PR move to make it free.
Yeah, it's just the right move to do. But
But if you're trying to make money,
I'd be a little surprised if they made it free. That'd be
think so?
awesome.
Even just for
That'd be
8
great.
games.
Dude, 8 games. You can make a
yeah,
lot
but
of
if
money.
you can make, I say if you can make $100 million in 8 games,
Well, and I guess it's 8 times 11, so it's 88 games.
Yeah.
mhm.
Is that right?
And you have the option on League
8
Pass.
times 11 is 88. There's
to buy-
22 teams playing 8 games. Yeah.
Is that right?
Anyways, you have the option to buy one game if you wanted to on League Pass. So if
Yeah.
there's one game you wanted to watch, you could go buy.
Yeah, but I want to watch them all the time. I want to watch them nonstop.
So back to the schedule.
Yeah,
With-
so they play the Jazz. If it lines out anyway like this, Jazz, Wizards, Grizzlies. So that's 3. Nuggets, Heat, Nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
So where are we at 6?
6.
And then you would finish with the Suns and the Clippers.
Yep.
I think Thunder probably go 500 in that. Could go 500 in that. Probably
Yeah.
maintain the random seed. I mean, it doesn't. I'm not sure seeding really matters as much as matchups, but we tried to play that game last year and it did not work out for us very well.
Well, and now there's what's home court. What does home court mean now? Just everyone's in the same place. It's going to be so weird. I think we're going to get very strange outcomes in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's going to be very weird because I don't know if they are going to go with any of the proposals that they've made. I just can't see them doing anything that's been proposed.
Like
I mean,
7 fouls for your one player or something.
Oh,
like
that's
that.
awful.
No,
7 fouls. Let's give Dort 7 fouls. Let's see what you can do, Lou.
a possession,
awful.
an extra possession. Well, no. So one of the proposals was like the home court team gets the ball at the beginning of the second, third, and fourth quarters.
Yeah, I mean that's one that I could see. I mean that's easily done and doesn't seem outrageous.
Yeah. I mean, it couldn't even define what competitive advantage that would really provide. It doesn't seem like it's a ton.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's Dale, man. Longtime listener, first time caller. I got a quick question. I've been getting ready for work as on mute as we've been doing this, and I've been thinking, have they said like what they're gonna do if a team shows up and like 80% of them have coronavirus?
Well,
have they talked about that?
No, they haven't discussed details like that yet. They have. I mean, they talked about how they'll do testing prior to their arrival in Orlando, and
Because-
basically do a quarantine before they arrive in Orlando.
Because all this is great, but like this is, this is 2.5 weeks from now when this is just starting, and it just seems awful presumptuous just to say, oh yeah, 2.5 weeks, everything's gonna be great. There's not gonna be a single problem. When like you look at 2.5 weeks from today and just go back like that every 2.5 weeks, like we're in a country where big things are changing on a consistent basis. That's the only thing that you can count on right now is big changes. So like, I hate to be the like Debbie Downer and all this, but like, what does that look like?
That's something that they have to figure out. It's obviously something that they have thought about and something
Yeah.
that they, they're not going to go into this thinking we're just going to go play basketball and it's going to be really fun and everybody will have fun. I mean, they're
talking daily testing. They're talking, I mean, it's why they're doing a bubble with no fans. And there's a lot of the things that they're doing that, and they can't limit, like they've already just kind of confessed that like, we can't limit travel outside of the area, but everybody's going to be in the same spot and they're going to be getting daily tests. And here's the other side of this is they're going to be, this is crazy in the weeds. And I get that. There are going to be teams like, because of the potential for antibodies creating some sort of immunity, like if your team has had any sort of, like, they had 4 Lakers that had the coronavirus before this all fell apart, or the Nets. And like, there are going to be teams that have more immunity from the virus than other teams, which is another weird dynamic. Like, if 80% of your team had it, you quarantine for 14 days, and then you have herd immunity among your team, which is kind of insane to think about. But it's just going to be, here's the deal. This has kind of been my epiphany, if you will, about the coronavirus going forward. Is at this point, the initial response was to flatten the curve, to limit the overwhelming of the medical system. At this point, it's mitigating risk, right? So the whole game at this point is, because life has to progress. There's enough things going on that would say that the cost to our mental health, the cost to our economy, the cost to all of that are enormous if we don't figure out, not that you just go back to everything's normal, but you go back and you say, all right, so what do we do to move forward in a way that mitigates risk? So that's what the NBA, the NBA doesn't want anybody, there's nobody that has a better reason to not have this become an outbreak than the NBA. Like, that's what the NBA is all about, is how do we mitigate the risk for our players? Not to mention, like last night, the big conversation that's going on is how do we lower the risk for our coaches? You have coaches that are in that age range where they're going to be more susceptible to the worst parts of this coronavirus. And so what do you do with that? And the NBA is, I promise you, if you're thinking about it, Adam Silver in the NBA is thinking about it on a level that we can't even fathom. Like, and they also have the means to think about it in a way that we can't, where they're going to have medical teams that have already informed the way they're going to move forward. And then you have private laboratories that are going to be ready for on-site nonstop testing, let alone that you may even have the potential for antigen tests by the end of July or by mid-July that can tell you quicker with less invasive methods of gathering specimens. So there's all sorts of variables, and the NBA is going to be on the cutting edge of all of this. Because they have the financial means and the reasoning to be in the midst of that thing. So,
yeah, it's just something I've, been thinking about.
No, it's real, man.
Because, right now everyone's kind of forgotten about coronavirus because there's, a lot more important stuff going on right now. And some of that includes big gatherings of people. And so I think 2 weeks from now I'm a little worried about it, and to say that, like, it's something I constantly think about.
Yeah. It is a legitimate fear or anxiety for sure. And I think the league has to handle it in the right way, because if they don't, the NBA is very conscious of public relations.
Yeah.
And what a public relations nightmare would it be if 30 players got the coronavirus in round 1 and they had to shut it all down?
Yeah.
It'd be an absolute nightmare. So, they have been working pretty tirelessly since the NBA shut down to figure out how can we get this back going? How can we do it safely? How do we execute this? That's why it's taken a while for them to come up with even a plan.
I have a fix if that happens.
Yeah.
So say a team, half their team gets coronavirus in the first 8 games. Well, what you do is you have a group of free agents, players that are retired, not in the league, overseas, whatever, and they're ready to go. And you can kind of pick out of them. So we might be seeing his white bikes. We might be seeing return of Jamario Moon. I'm just saying, you have these players that are tested and they're ready to go, and you just throw them on a team.
I've been so pumped for the return of Jamario Moon. Jamario Moon, who I saw at a mall in Atlanta years ago.
Whoa.
And I talked.
You recognized Jamario Moon.
I did. It was great. It was good times.
You're a freak. You're a freak.
I know. We established that. So before we move on, I do want to talk a little bit about something that we'd like to do as a podcast. We would like to do as a community. That is Down to Dunk, and we would like to give to to an organization that is going to help move things forward. And the organization that we have chosen is the Urban League of Greater Oklahoma City. So the Urban League of Greater Oklahoma City was established in 1946 as an affiliate to the National Urban League and the United Way Partner Agency. And their mission is to assist African Americans, other minorities, and the poor to achieve social and economic equality. And I cannot imagine a better organization to give to in, today, June 5th, 2020. And so we are all going to be giving a portion of what we make from the Athletic. In this, we're going to be giving what we make from the Athletic this month to that. And we'd like to give you guys the chance to give as well. So look out on our Twitter account @DownToDunk to see a link to where you can give, and then we will give a big donation to them. And so if you'll just look out for that, we are going to be executing that over the weekend. So anybody else want to say something?
Yeah, I think that we had this, I think a majority of people that are paying attention to what's going on in our world, but more specifically here in our country with the killing of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery. It's just such a long list of African-American men and women who have faced police brutality and have lost their lives. And one of the things I've been saying, it's hard, is sometimes when we elevate the importance, like the Black Lives Matters movement, is sometimes when we elevate the importance of African Americans in our community, is we feel like we have to be anti somebody else. So when you elevate the need for some sort of larger conversation about police treatment of African Americans, at the same time, like, you can recognize that there is a value and a love for police officers as well. Like, it doesn't have to be an either or kind of line of thinking where it's not, doesn't mean you're either for them or against them, but it means that, hey, we just recognize that there needs to be a way that we can move forward where we deal with some of the ways that the system is rigged against African Americans here in our culture. So as we watch all of this kind of unfold, I know that all of us who at least are trying to be sensitive to the world around us, we can say we want to do something. And I just confess as a white American is that I feel really handcuffed in the midst of this, where I don't know really what to do. And so we just simply said, Luke actually just said, hey, we should give what we make this month from The Athletic as a podcast to some sort of organization. And it was pretty quick that the four of us were all like, yep. And so we did a little research, and it seems like this organization is one that's local, which is really important to us, but is also doing a tremendous amount of good for the community that is that has historically dealt with the most oppression from our country and from people here. So Taylor, what about you? Any other thoughts you want to throw out there?
I just want us to be clear in that we recognize that the protests are specifically about police brutality towards Black Americans, and that's all. I just wanted that to be out there and clear and say that. So
yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
What I would also put in, the reason I thought, it's important. Oh my gosh, this is my alarm to go to work, so I have to leave after this. But okay. But what I would say is that it is, what we do as a podcast is only possible because of the blood, sweat, and tears of primarily Black men, that we are fans of, specifically the Oklahoma City Thunder, but the NBA in general, and that we just have privileges that we that are hard to articulate, but that we don't have to deal with the things that Black kids did growing up. And I just want to do something. And I don't want to just, the statements feel like if there's just a statement, there's nothing behind it, that there's more that we can do. And so I think it's important that we put money towards something that are doing something with this. And so if our listeners want to do something too and feels like, I could do more, I particularly felt like that. I thought we've got to give money to someone. And so that's why I thought it was important, and just important to say, because Black Lives Matter. And at this point, big things are happening in our country, and important things. And it's going to have to last a lot longer than this. And an organization like the one we're giving money to is best suited, we feel, to do that, and to make decisions that, we don't really know how to make. And so that's what I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so there's 4 major areas that they give to and try to promote is workforce and career development, education and family development, housing and financial literacy, community convening, and social justice. So those are the type of things that they promote. And if you disagree with that, I really don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that I would just want to emphasize is, there are going to be people that maybe listen to this or come across this in some manner and would just challenge us to stay in our lane. I subscribe to this podcast to listen to content about X, Y, or Z, and I don't want to hear this here because it's this escape or whatever it is for you, or you just fundamentally disagree with it. Which either way, what I would say is that there is no lane when it comes to equality. Is we have at least some platform. It may be a platform where 1,000 people listen to a download or listen to a podcast, or we just have at least some sort of connection, and we would feel massively irresponsible if we didn't utilize that platform in a way that advocates for justice here as a people. And we're not going to do this every week. It's not some sort of whack-a-mole for the next major, thing that we're going to have to be outraged about. But what we do see is that this is a long history, for as long as our country has been around, where African Americans in our community have been oppressed, mistreated, and not had equal footing. And it's just something that anybody that has a platform should be standing up and saying something. And so, most of you all that are listening have a long history with us. And so just know that we don't do this lightly. And we have all felt, there's been a lot of texts that have come across in our own conversation where we all just feel an immense amount of heaviness for what's going on. And I think, Luke, you're right, man. Like, there are a lot of people that make money because of what a predominantly African-American league does night to night, the life that they pour out there. And so we don't take that lightly either. And so we just want to use this platform and our voices to do something to advance at least some part of the conversation.
Yeah, I think that, especially with a lot of people, and us not saying anything, silence speaks volumes. And so it's time when you've got to step up and say something. If you've changed your Instagram photo to a black square, great. But that doesn't do anything to actively help people. And that's just what we're trying to do. And and it's hard because we each have and everyone listening has their own separate views on exactly what's going on, how best to help. But everyone that's listening to this obviously likes the Thunder and likes the NBA, and you've just got to think they're in the same thing. You're liking this product that is based on the hard work that African Americans have put in their whole life, and that those lives haven't been easy. And so I just thought we had to do something, say something. I think it's really important.
Totally agree. I'm on the L train. Okay, you guys want to go to some Twitter questions?
As the L man has to leave the station and go to work.
Okay, peace out, L man.
But I love you guys.
Love you, dude.
Choo choo.
Okay. Right now,
I don't love you.
It's just me and Tayshawn. You don't love him. Okay. Nope. This question actually comes from the YouTube comments section. So if we have a show on YouTube, I'm monitoring the comments currently, and I have a TQ from Blake Phillips. His question is, do you think it's A, possible for Andre Robertson to get back for the playoffs? And B, will he make an impact at all? Or will Billy just stick with what he's got so far? Peak Dre was a game changer, but who knows?
I don't know. We don't even know that what Robertson would be if he came back. What it'll be? 2 years?
Yeah. 2 calendar years.
2 years. So so he's asking, do I think it's possible? I have no idea if it's possible. Also, I have no idea if it will help the team or not. I mean, if he's healthy and he gets minutes, I don't see how it wouldn't help the team. But does he, I think being able to play those first 8 games would be a really big deal before the playoffs. But not playing those and then jumping into the playoffs and trying to figure out where Robertson fits in with this team that is completely different. I mean, this isn't like, he was gone for 2 years, but Russ is still the leader of the team. So he kind of has an idea of the feel or how the game flow is going to be. Like, this is like a completely different team.
We'll put it this way. The last time that Andre Robertson played an NBA game, Carmelo Anthony was the starting power forward for the Thunder.
Yeah. This is not the Thunder he left. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I would say it's difficult. I would lean toward that he's not going to play for a lot of reasons. He said he was a full go on media day. Remember that?
Yeah.
And so he is a very positive person, and I can identify with that. I'm a very positive person as well, and sometimes our positivity can overwhelm reality a little bit. And I think that maybe happened with Dre. And so he acts like he's ready to go. He's said that on a podcast. He's said that on a show that came out of the University of Colorado. And so he thinks he can play. Now, will the Thunder play him? I don't know. If they do play him, I think it will absolutely be helpful, because where the Thunder's biggest deficit is on the wing.
Mm-hmm.
The guys that are the Thunder don't really have a big wing to play. I mean, Lou Dort, who thinks of himself as a point guard, is essentially their big wing that they start.
Yeah.
Then
he's the one. He's guarding Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, and so like Terrence Ferguson is another one of those guys. And Terrence is taller than Dort, but doesn't have the size that Dort has. So I mean, it would be great if you can just throw him on as essentially like a free agent signing. I won't believe it until I see him on the court and playing. I think.
Now, am I wrong?
Tremendous impact, though.
Andrew, am I wrong to think that I thought I listened to a Billy Donovan interview where he mentioned that Dre was ready and then had some sort of setback early on in training camp and just couldn't get to where he needed to be. Is that right?
Yeah, it's true.
So, I mean, this is number one, apparently a really, really, really devastating injury that I just didn't realize the severity of a patellar tendon tear rupture.
Yeah.
Because this is longer than an Achilles return. Maybe not John Wall's, but
this is
people's.
longer. This is longer than Sean Livingston was out of the league.
Yeah.
His leg was in half.
Yeah.
Well, so it's so crazy to me.
Had multiple setbacks. So it's not just one injury, it's multiple.
Did he have some loose stitches?
He had some
God.
He had a screw that was irritating.
Oh man.
Oh my God. That's nightmare fuel.
That is nightmare fuel.
Totally nightmare fuel. But when it comes to Dre, I don't know. I would assume he's not going to play. And then if he does, wow, that's awesome. Because if they do have to play the Clippers or the Lakers in the second round, because the Thunder are definitely making the second round. Well, let's say they draw the Rockets in the first round. You're going to want a guy like Andre to throw out there on one of those guys, because I'm afraid that Dort and Terrence Ferguson would foul out in the first 10 minutes of the game if they play the Rockets.
Oh my God.
Is there anybody that would benefit more from, because here's what's crazy. If the season really starts kicking back in June, right, as far as practice and all those different things, which is what it looks like, that's a 3-month break from the end of basketball to the restart of basketball.
Yeah.
Is there anybody, which is kind of like an off season? I mean, it's a little shorter than an off season, but is there anybody in this tournament or this 22 teams that are coming back that benefits more than the Trailblazers for this time off?
Yeah, I mean, you could point to the Rockets as a team that benefits as well.
Just simply from just rest.
Yeah, I mean, PJ Tucker gets to rest, and
Yeah, good
not
point.
just get destroyed for the rest of the regular season, and then you have to play him heavy minutes in the playoffs. So, I mean, if the
I just
Rockets
think adding Zach Collins and Nurkic to your team, although it creates a whole somebody, it was Pelton again, or maybe it was Zach Lowe that mentioned it does create some odd dynamic though. Whenever you're like, so do Hassan Whiteside and Carmelo Anthony go to the bench? How does that work for them?
Yeah, I mean, it's helpful to the Blazers for sure, but they're still missing. I mean, Rodney Hood can't play, so they're still missing a lot. I mean,
Is John Wall coming back?
Wing.
There's a lot of questions here.
He is definitely not.
What about Kevin Durant?
Kevin Durant is not gonna play probably.
What about Jamario Moon?
Jamario Moon is definitely already in Orlando.
Okay.
He's gearing up. He's ready.
He's in the pool of clean players.
He is.
He's just there waiting for his shot.
You know, there are some of those guys that are like, listen, here's what we need you to do. We're going to rent you a hotel room. We're going to provide you meals. You just can't talk to anybody, see anybody, or do anything for the next 3 months because we may potentially need you.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I would do it. Come on. I'll sit in a hotel room for 3 months if the Thunder are like, hey, listen, our whole entire team's out. We need you. I'm jumping in. Let's do this.
Jay, are you just describing your greatest dream? Are you just
Yeah.
describing?
Sorry, where am I? What's happening? I thought it was...
That was not the question, Jay. This is not describing the greatest dreams.
They'll go to the Skins League guys before they go to you, Jay. Sorry.
Gosh, they'll go to about 1 billion people before they would go to me.
Yeah. Some people are legit, and there's obviously a reason for concern about contracting the coronavirus even while in Orlando. But don't you think that, I mean, some of these guys are so driven and can be just so crazy about, winning, that a competitive advantage is don't go anywhere. Stay on property. Don't go anywhere. And I think we'll probably hear about LeBron James, never left his hotel room area. He had food dropped off at the door. He did all the, he was committed to not getting this.
They better be doing some intense documentaries for this.
Well, LeBron won't even let them in.
True,
So don't even come near me.
LeBron will only let documentarians in.
So here's my question. Is it, and I don't know all the details, and I'm not sure anybody really knows all the details.
Yeah.
Do you have to stay on that campus is my question.
No.
In the sense of what I would do if I was LeBron James, truthfully, is I would bring my family and I would long-term rent some sort of house right outside of the campus.
Sleep. Is that what you mean? Yeah, I think you do.
Okay. I'm just saying, that's more controllable than a hotel room, where it's you have people all day that come through there and clean it or whatever. But,
well, I have heard people talk about that, and that they will probably not have people come in, and clean every day.
Isn't it wild also to think that there's going to be, and maybe I'm making this up, but from what I heard also is if it did take on the bubble kind of perspective, kind of idea, is that people that are working in those industries would also have to be bubbled during that time.
Have to,
for sure.
Which that's crazy. We're starting to get more identity or more idea of how coronavirus spreads, and hopefully the real hope in the midst of all of this is there's some sort of seasonality to it, which it's hard to tell if we're seeing that or not, but some sort of seasonality to it, to where it at least has some sort of downtick during the months that really it would match the months that the NBA is getting back together, and before it ramps potentially back up in the fall to winter. And so that's the hope. And then it just everybody's risk is way lowered. But we just don't know, man. This is the first time we've ever dealt with it. So we have no idea what it's going to look like.
Yep. Before we move on to our next TQ, I just want to run through the teams that could possibly make the 8th seed and discuss who we
Oh
think.
yeah, come on, Suns, let's do it.
So Memphis Grizzlies are 32-33, and they have a 3.5 game lead on the 9th seed Portland Trailblazers. So it's Memphis, Portland, New Orleans, Sacramento, San Antonio, and Phoenix. And Phoenix is a full 6 games back of the 8th seed, which just, I mean, that's where, I mean, the Blazers were the only team that voted no. And I assume they voted no because they're like, why do we have to invite Phoenix and Washington?
It was way less about themselves.
Yeah. It was more of just understanding that these teams are so far apart. And it's possible that Washington gets within 4 games of Orlando or of Brooklyn. And I mean, that's not impossible. In the play-in, I hope that we get a play-in for both conferences because I think it would be those games would be really fun. The pressure would be immense. I mean, imagine if you got a Grizzlies Blazers play-in.
Well, imagine if you got a Pelicans Grizzlies play-in.
Yeah.
I'd rather the Pelicans be that 9 seed than the Blazers. We know what the Blazers are, whatever. So Pelicans Grizzlies play-in, and then you have maybe you have Pelicans against LeBron in the first round too. That'd be amazing.
That's the NBA's dream, truthfully.
Yeah.
You could have Blazers Pelicans play-in.
Yeah, that's true.
I think the Grizzlies also are a team that gets healthy, which, having Jaren Jackson and Brandon Clark back is helpful.
Yeah, it is.
I'm just excited to see Ja and high stakes. Man, that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I really like that guy.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who steps up because the pressure on those teams is crazy. It'll be, what are the Lakers? If the Lakers clinch, I mean, they don't have to win that many games to clinch the first seed. Are they going to be playing all of their guys?
I think the only reason they would be playing, the only reason I think they'd be playing everybody is because of that tuning up. But so maybe everybody's playing, but maybe instead of AD playing 30 plus minutes, he's playing 20. Starts the game, plays 5 minutes, comes out, that's what I could see more than people sitting legitimate games. Because
you don't think they need more rest?
Right. But I could almost see Adam Silver, like, this wouldn't be something that would probably become public, but like, if you all rest people, I'm going to fine your teams $1 million. But like, hey, this you have 8 games. You have 8 games that you have to play your entire roster. That unless there's a legitimate injury, like I could see some memos going through, like, I will send your team to Seattle if you rest players.
Yeah. Okay.
I haven't heard this one. Do you think they're going to be able to send? Do you think they're going to broaden the rosters to where it's not as limited?
What do you mean?
Where I can't remember, was it 14 players or 13 players that you can have on our active roster? Like, would they broaden that to bring in 16 or something like that?
Oh, to do like the full 15?
Yeah.
Come with you. Maybe.
I don't know. Just a thought.
It's possible.
You don't know. Have you not talked to Adam Silver, Andrew?
I haven't. Adam, I've left him a few messages. He hadn't called me back yet. Who would be our best bet to make the 8th seed in the West? Jay.
Portland.
Tayshia.
I don't want to say that, but I think it's Portland.
Yeah, Portland probably, but that's like the last team that we want, especially in these special conditions. Like, I just don't want to watch. That's so normal.
I do want to watch the Pelicans give that a shot, though. So maybe my hope is the Pelicans, but reality is the Portland.
Yeah,
that's the thing. The Pelicans, or even, I'd rather watch the Grizzlies just get completely annihilated by the Lakers, just to watch these young guys in the playoffs. I don't want to watch Lillard.
That could feel very Thunder. Like, oh man, they gave the Lakers a game. Hey, they gave them a few games and made them, at least sweat a little bit.
Yeah.
So who would be? Is there any question that the team you would least like to see get the 8th seed is the Spurs?
Oh God.
You don't want to see 4 games of Jakob?
But think about this. You would rather see the Suns play the Lakers than the Spurs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
For sure.
What about the
I really-
Kings?
I'd rather, definitely
Yeah.
rather see the Kings. Definitely. De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, buddy.
I don't want to have conversations during the first round of, do we really think, do we really think that this is the last stand for LaMarcus and DeMar? Is this the last stand? Are they going to bring it back? They're going to run it back?
It's gonna be the last
I-
stand.
Like if they're the 8th seed, LeBron would just be cackling to himself because DeMar is his son at this point. He's just completely destroyed DeMar in every way.
This is so true. That is so true.
He is the reason DeMar was traded to San Antonio.
Is there any team that was probably less excited that the NBA invited them to come to this tournament or this play-in stuff than the Spurs? There's no way the Spurs weren't like just sitting back going, dang it.
Well, we don't even know if they're going to allow Pop to travel with them. I mean, I'm serious. They may not
For real.
they talked about that last night, is that they may not let coaches that are 65 or older come.
Wow.
So that affects the Rockets and the Spurs and the Pelicans.
The Rockets. Oh my God. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Mike D'Antoni he's pretty old.
Well,
Yeah.
and isn't their next assistant coach pretty old too?
I don't know. But
Who
maybe,
am I thinking of?
I mean, really, who's coaching that team anyways, right?
Yeah. And also, I wanted to talk about all these teams. Oh, this is what I wanted to talk about. All the teams with younger players.
Mhm.
So the offseason between their rookie and sophomore year, and they can get a lot happens during that offseason. Now I know a lot happens specifically with trainers and with teams like, hey, great job this year, but here's some really specific things to work on, like your shot this summer. That's all you're going to do. But I think also one of the benefits is being away from games and being able to actually emotionally and mentally process what that experience was and coming back more confident, just knowing what it is now. So, you look at a guy like Bazley, who was playing pretty regular minutes, and he kind of gets an off season before he comes back in Orlando. Same with Zion. Same with Ja. Not so much with Zion because he only played 15 games before. But I think these teams with young players actually have a little bit more of an advantage coming off of 3 months of not playing.
There's no doubt. I mean, they have, this is the start of their second year essentially.
Yeah.
And that's for real. And yeah, I think it's a huge benefit to a lot of the young guys. I mean, Brandon Clark and Bazley and Zion and Ja and all those guys for sure.
And
even Luka can look
Yeah.
back. You have a chance to kind of digest what did we just do? How can I get better? And for sure the teams sat down and looked at all that and said, here's what you should work on. And here's what we need you to do with your body to take the next step.
That's what I was going to say with your body. Like we were talking about who's the Thunder's big wing. Well, it might just be Bazley. I mean, he's put on pounds. He already had pretty good defensive instincts and was getting much better defensively toward the end of this season. Like it might be him. You look at how much bodies have shifted. Look at James Harden. That's like a different dude. And it might not benefit them that James Harden had this offseason to lose. It looks like 20 pounds he lost.
Yeah. No, I mean, he looks very thin. And won't be able to take the beating that he did before. And it clearly won't
But he
be. as
can
good.
also be so blazingly fast that
It might be better.
Oh, James Harden. Have you ever thought of James Harden as blazingly fast?
Well, maybe because he was carrying about 15 to 20 lbs, man.
he was never that fast in OKC though, and he wasn't.
No, he's always been more. I mean, he's like Shea a little bit, truthfully. Like you would never think that Shea would go out there and win a foot race, but the dude just can get to the bucket. The bucket.
Yeah, he would never beat me in a race, Shea.
Yeah.
Foot race.
I tried to run the other day. I haven't run really consistently in a long time because we have problems. Anyway, I've never felt so uncoordinated and unhealthy as when I tried to run. I was like so hard-footed and just it's bad. Me and Shea would be
There's a lot of impact on your body.
a lot of impact on your body running.
Yeah.
That's why I've just decided I'm not going to even walk anymore.
That's a good idea.
I played with my kids in the pool And the next morning I wake up and I'm like, oh, my body. What
In
happened
the
to
pool?
me?
Why am I so sore?
Dude, yeah, man.
Were you like throwing them around
Yeah,
and stuff?
probably.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Oh, okay.
Asher's 8, Archie's 6. Arden who's 1 is all about the pool. Who's all about the pool.
This most recent spell here in Oklahoma has never made me want to begin to dig a hole in my backyard more.
Yeah.
If you're not in Oklahoma, it was 100 degrees yesterday. And all I could think of is, man, it'd be tight to be just like lounging in a pool.
I
It's
know.
glorious.
I know. Questions from our listeners. This is from @Jess2437. Will this season shift the NBA season's dates for years to come? I don't think that's completely defined, but I think that it probably will. And I think that this is something the NBA has thought about for a long time.
You think it shortens the season or it just starts later and ends later?
Starts later, ends later. Yeah. At D-Tally Live, there is scuttlebutt that there will be alterations to the CBA. Since OKC never comes out on the good side of CBA changes, what are the most creative ways that the CBA changes could screw over OKC?
League retraction.
Here's the way that I think it could legitimately screw over the Thunder is if they somehow mess with the lottery odds even more.
Yeah.
Where there's no advantage to tanking at all. And there's no way to really control your draft pick. To me, that would be the ultimate screw over for OKC, whose mission from here on out is to, 1, get great players, and 2, get those great players through the draft, and then just be completely screwed over and say, yeah, everybody that's in the lottery have equal odds. And then you're just like, no, we've tried so hard.
There's just not really any financial. The Thunder are going to, before you know it, be one of those teams that's able to absorb contracts without having to, like trade anybody away. Like they're going to have millions of dollars. Now, I think the amount could shift based on some of the collective bargaining here in the near future, in the sense of like when they used to, like, because you got to think once they get Steven, either Steven off the books or Steven reduced in the salary, Schroeder's gone, Chris Paul may be gone. I mean, that's your $40-50 million back into your kind of pool of money. Now they could lessen what which it feels like the salary cap is going to lessen. In doing so, I think what you'll see is, like that gap will change. But the Thunder are a few seasons away from being one of those teams that's like, oh, you have a contract that you signed that was really bad. Now, here's the deal: is those contracts are going to be less and less.
Yeah.
The Evan Turners and Alan Crabb contracts from the 2016, like you're not going to see that kind of really bad contract. But that's always been a part of the NBA, and that's how teams like the Thunder rebuild. Is, hey, we'll take your Kurt Thomas contract and some form of pick compensation, or something else. And so that's where the Thunder are going to be. And so I think the only thing you can see with collective bargaining is if there's anything that kind of restricts any of that, or if they've talked about it, I think another, oh gosh, what do they call it? Where you can just cut basically people, amnesty. Like if they did something like that, that could potentially backfire against the Thunder, in the sense that limits their ability to take back some of those players. But other than that, I can't think of much, because the Thunder aren't going to be a tax team, for the next 5 to 10 years, maybe.
That's true. That is true. Next question from @D-Tally Live. If the NBA gives the home team one player to have 7 fouls, who would you designate to have 7 fouls? And would it depend on the matchup?
Could you change it each game, or do you pick one player? And that's the player that's always
just say they have to pick one player.
Okay. I like Chris Paul having 7 fouls. If Chris Paul can just poke at the ball all game, I like that.
You know how many times Chris Paul has fouled out in a game this year?
None.
0.
I know, but like, think of how much
He
more
would play a little
aggressively
more
he would
aggressively.
play. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
I
true.
think Steve is the best answer, or Dort or Ferguson, like one of the wing guys. But Steve is
Yeah.
always the one I feel like in my mind is closer to foul trouble.
How many times Steven Adams has fouled out this season?
Once
0.
Ferguson's fouled out, I think.
Once.
Dort
But
has fouled out.
I just think you have to be a little bit more
Baisley.
strategic with it.
Who led the
'Cause,
league?
like-
Who led the team in fouls? Foul out games.
I'm looking at Dort real quick. Ferg has a ton of 5 foul games where you would just guess that they just held him out.
But okay, here's my question: how does it benefit us to give someone like Ferg 7 fouls?
Dort once.
It's not like
Pick on
these are
Baisley for
players
me.
that.
I'm listening, Taylor.
Well, I
Yeah.
was just saying it's not like these are players that like. Oh no, Ferg has 5 fouls that completely changes the game.
Baisley's never had 5 fouls in a game.
That's why I think it's Steve.
Yeah, it's
Because if
it's
Steve
Steve
gets in
or
foul trouble, you're like,
yeah,
you can,
I agree.
now, Nerlens makes you feel way more confident in what that second unit looks like. But Steve does so much for the defense outside of just the blocking and the the stuff that Nerlens does, rim protection wise. But it has to be Steve to me. But
I just like Chris Paul having 7, and he knows he has 7.
Yeah.
He'll
He is so
plan
smart,
some.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you, Taylor. I think Chris Paul is definitely the one as well because he can play more aggressively on defense.
Yeah.
With that said, there's no way that this happens.
Andre Robertson.
No,
had 7.
it's a really stupid idea.
Roosevelt fouled that one time this whole season. Hey, the Thunder may be a league leader in players that didn't foul out of games because it just didn't happen, which it seemed like in years past the guys fouled out all the time, right?
Yeah.
Felt like Steve all the time. Shade never fouled out. It's really interesting.
I have an idea for a home court advantage. So if a team is home court in the playoffs, they are just the only ones that are allowed to bribe refs. The away team is not allowed to bribe refs. What do you think?
No, it's good. At Kyle Panabaker, how out of shape will Jokic be?
That's gonna be the whole wild card for this whole thing for me. Is you have who's the antithesis of James Harden in the midst of this? Like James Harden lost 20 pounds. Somebody put on 15. Who's it going to be? Doncic is an early option for that one. But I do think Jokic is pretty high on there too.
What if Jokic comes back like 30 pounds lighter? It was like, oh my God, we haven't seen Jokic in 3 months. Look at him.
Muscle watch.
The GM for the Nuggets said that he had abs.
Dude.
No, we all do. They're just underneath layers of other things.
Right.
True. The best player to gain 25 pounds would be JJ Barea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's part of me that's like, just so many things change where it's like I mean, Giannis even mentioned it. He's like, I don't have a basketball goal at my house. Like, when you have access to a gym nonstop, like,
yeah,
normally, I just wondered, what guys had gyms at their house, like who has a regimen, and how many guys that had paid chefs that used to cook their meals to make sure that they're eating what they needed to eat. How much of that changed over the course of this time? Like and that's also why there's such a long takeoff for this, it's over a month and 2 weeks that they're going to be getting ready to play. For 6 weeks, you can do some pretty get in shape work for 6 weeks.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's going to be a huge problem. I would actually be surprised if it was a huge problem. But Jokic is definitely a candidate.
Yeah, right.
I have a friend, Derek, that's a Nuggets fan. He texted me yesterday that he is very worried about Jokic's condition. At Trust the Void, since home court doesn't matter, don't you sort of want our first round pick this year? So, according to tankathon.com, the Thunder, in order to keep their pick, it has to be 20 And so the Thunder, the Rockets would have to pass the Thunder, and Philly would have to have a better record than the Thunder at the end of all of this. So those are the two teams that need to jump the Thunder. And the Rockets have the same record as the Thunder, so that's obviously an easy one. And then the Sixers are 39-26, and the Thunder sit at 40-42. So theoretically possible for that to happen.
Yeah. For me, it's a matchup thing. If you can pull the Jazz, that's what you want. I would like, here's who I don't want to play in the first round, the Lakers and the Clippers. So avoid the 7 and the 8, and then throw it all in the bag. I don't really care at that point.
What about Houston?
I don't want to play them just because it would be just emotionally exhausting. But it would be a fun. I mean, it would not. No, I'm not even thinking it'd be fun. I don't think I would enjoy that at all, actually.
Alan _Miller 12. What train are we riding to Orlando?
The A plane.
A-plane. We're not even going.
We're taking the A plane.
Just flying high on the A plane.
I do think it's unfair. I feel like I wanted to say this is it's unfair that Luke gets so much of the blame. The L train was really strong for many, many weeks leading up to.
I will
the
quote
last
Taylor. Was there ever an L train?
Was there, Jay? Because what we're seeing right now is we thought it was the L train. L train joins our team, literally provides zero help. And Andrew is just smoking us. I think Andrew was being a really good friend in making it seem like it was the L train.
The good thing is we know Luke will never listen to this.
Yeah, he will never listen.
You can say whatever you want right now. Get it.
Yeah.
You can get it all out before we.
I was so disappointed. I was like seriously disappointed. I was like, hello, what's the point of you to be here?
You remember when he was like, I think this was Matt Barnes. And this week it was like, Tag. It's Tag, the movie Tag.
Yeah, the first week he decides to not be Googling all these answers is when he's on our team, Jay. God dang.
I told them to Google them before this all started.
Hey, buddy, start researching these years.
Keep stay on Google. Just stay. You can do
Gosh.
that. You can do that for them too. I told them.
We're taking the A plane, though, to Orlando.
Listen. Last question from @Bangelope. Top 5 board games.
Whoa. Top 5 board games.
There's one called, we called it Trains, but that's not what it's called. I think it's called Ticket to Ride, maybe?
Yeah.
That's kind of a fun game.
Ticket to Ride is fun.
I don't like Monopoly because it is the game that never ends.
Yeah.
My son and I last summer played that game for 5 hours. I literally owned the entire board. The entire board. But here's what's happened is my son, he was like on the verge of bankruptcy, and there was a lot of money in the community pile or whatever it is in the middle that you can get if you get the right card or the right landing spot. And I was like, this is it. It's the game over. Like, I'm going to take all his money. I'm finally going to put this game to rest. 4 hours in, and then he lands on it and gets like the community chest or whatever and made, I mean, thousands and thousands of dollars. And it was like, you just took this game and made it 3 hours longer. So I threw the board in the trash.
Come on,
Man.
threw it away.
What are the games? I mean, what do you play, Andrew? You're probably the one that plays the most board games.
Yeah, we do some Clue Junior. That's pretty fun. We do Guess Who.
Ooh, I loved Guess Who.
It's a great game.
Does Connect 4 count as board game? It's not a board. Doesn't have a board
But it is
in that classification.
Yeah.
It's a slot board. I would say it's a vertical slot board.
Yeah, there's a Daniel Tiger game that we play that just it's a lot of like acting out scenarios, and it's hilarious.
Oh, that's fun.
And a very, very, very good game.
You know, life is pretty fun.
The game of life. Yeah.
Life
Game
is
of
fun. I would say that both in general, but also as a board game.
Okay, here's
We
my
play-
question.
We play Sorry a lot.
Yeah.
We
Sorry.
used to play Sorry a lot, but we don't play it as much anymore. I like Sorry. We used to play this game called Marbles, which is basically Sorry, but it's with marbles. But you try to go around no, it's not Sorry. What is that? Trouble.
Trouble. Yeah.
No, I'm gonna start saying marbles when I'm sorry about something.
Marbles.
Oh,
Marbles.
I'm so
I'm marbles.
Shoots and
So
Ladders
marbles.
we played a
Marbles?
lot lately, which can be a infuriating game for my kids. Really, really
we play a game called Mexican Train with dominoes, which is a lot of fun. Which is not a board game, but I like it.
we also do a lot of cards too, just like a deck.
Yeah.
Like Texas Hold'em and stuff.
Yeah.
Blackjack.
Yeah, play a lot.
I do like a good game of Uno.
Oh yeah,
Uno's great, man.
Uno's
Not a board game, I don't think, but I would just consider it in the same realm.
You know, when's the last time you guys played Go Fish?
Been a long time.
recently.
It's much more fun than I remember it being. Kate and
Andrew,
I played
you're
every
like
now and then.
perfectly in that zone with your kids where it's like, especially during the quarantine, where it's like, what do you want to do? Break it out. Let's do this. Things on the table. Go Fish. Cool. Uno. Great.
Yep. Yeti and my spaghetti. Let's do it.
Candyland.
So my brother-in-law is huge into games, like board games. Like that's his thing. Like my thing is the NBA. His thing, board games.
Mm-hmm.
And
Does he do a podcast?
He should. He would totally kill a board game podcast for sure. But what's great about it is that for Christmas and for birthdays for both my kids, he gives them new board games every year. And so we get to play these really, really fun games that I would have no clue to go buy for them. And he legitimately reads like board game blogs and like ranking of board games, like the best new board games of the year and all these things. And so he's like, yeah, this one was the best game of the year for kids. And so I'm thankful for him in many ways, and that is one of them because
he's so lucky that he has a thing. Because I wish that it's so hard to think of gifts for people all the time. Yeah. But he's just a board guy.
You literally so he just gives pottery, Taylor.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I do that for friends.
You have you have like the pinnacle of specific gifts that you can make for people. Like, I don't have to buy another gift again. I just make them a couple glasses or a plate or something.
So that's a really good point. I'm thinking specifically about my dad. I never know what to get my dad. And so I still haven't given him a birthday gift from like a month ago. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to combine Father's Day and birthday this year for him. And I have no idea what to get him. They have way too much. Like they have a lot of my stuff in their house. I'm not going to give them more pottery.
Yeah. It's hard. So here's the other thing is we probably should have mentioned like games that adults play, like Settlers of Catan, which apparently is like multi-generational. You guys played it, but people talk about it all the time.
I've played it. It's actually super fun.
It's really fun.
And as you can probably tell from the trivia game, I get way too competitive with stuff like that, like outrageously competitive.
Oh yeah, it's a problem. That's why I don't normally do it with friends because there's too many friendships that have been left at the altar of board games.
I will turn on my wife quick in a board game.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're not playing fair.
Yeah,
we're playing to win right here.
That's exactly right.
I function with no sympathy.
Thanks so much for listening to our podcast. Remember, we are going to be donating money to the Urban League of Greater Oklahoma City. We'll do that probably at the beginning of next week. So we'll provide you guys with a way to donate, and probably I'll announce this again on Monday's show just to give you guys some time to be able to get that together. So just be thinking about that. Just be thinking about what you could give. And if you've already given, great. Don't feel pressure to give with us as well. But we wanted just an outlet for us as a show to be able to give. And then we thought, well, I mean, honestly, you guys have given to so many different causes through the year that we just thought we should go ahead and open this up to where we could give a larger sum to them at once. So if that's something that you feel led to give to, great. I think it's a good outlet. It's a good way to, like Luke said, just to do something instead of just making a social media post or changing your background picture or, changing your Instagram photo or whatever. It's something that's actually productive. So if you would like to do that, we'd love for you to participate as well.
And I'll also say this, if you're a listener and you have other options and other ways for people to get connected, share those with us. You can either tweet to us or try to send us an email or something like that. We just love ways to advocate in helpful and productive ways. And so if you have anything like that that you've been connected with or working with over the course of your life or over the last few years or last few weeks, just let us know. We'd love to just share and try to gather support for those things as well.
We could give to multiple causes. So like we're dedicated to the
or
urban
volunteer
league.
work, or we just if you just need to communicate, whatever, just holler at us and we'll try to get that stuff out.
Absolutely. We're not always the most educated on everything. We feel like this is a good cause, but if you have more information, we're always open to hearing. So
yeah,
have a great day. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you guys again on Monday.
I wish I played the piano. That's the one instrument I wish I played.
I wish I played the clavichord. I